Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Lombardo, host of Vendor Vibes and fractional CMO. Today, I'm here with Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Hey, Rebecca, thanks for having me today.
So glad to speak with you. You've got a pretty interesting marketing and software type of experience. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Cogwheel Marketing Analytics, it's two different services slash platforms under the same umbrella. So I've got the marketing agency side of the business, which is unique because we support branded hotels. So really knowing the nuances of like Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt's inner workings, making sure we're maximizing those levers and then coupling that with things that we can do, that a normal independent one hotel would do, but you got to understand those synergies, right? So had that side of the business since 2018, and then we also have a software side of the business that supports enterprises, portfolios, ownership groups in terms of kind of like kind of like your star report, but for digital marketing. So it's got all of your different marketing KPIs that we aggregate and normalize, and then benchmark at scale for hundreds of hotels.
Amazing. And way to tackle that challenge.
We're still working on it. I think there's a lot of opportunity in this space because a lot of the RMS systems are pulling that PMS data, right? And they're pulling that actualized journey, and we're looking at that customer book journey, like all the different touch points leading up to the point where, you're doing the rate shopping and making the actual reservation, right? So I think there's a lot of nuances to make sure marketing has a seat at the commercial strategy table.
For sure. And when it comes to demand generation, with marketing, can you speak to maybe some of the KPIs that you work around?
Yeah, we talk, it's a lot. I feel like, as you know as well, right? Being the fractional CMO is, I feel like it's a lot of education. Like every day, it's like that rolling the stone uphill when it comes to education. So we talk to our clients a lot about like if you're looking at ROAS, return on ad spend, as your primary KPI for your performance marketing, we're probably not the right fit for you. So like my life's mission is to really give people other data points to be able to say, I still don't think there's one magical KPI, but I do think that return on ad spend is not the right one. So how can we give them other data to look at across that full funnel journey to give them something else to look at and something else to benchmark against that their, owner slash revenue management brains can condense.
That's fascinating. Why do you think ROAS is not the North Star necessarily?
Oh my God, how much time do we have, right? I mean, most of the agencies, whether we like it or not, are still using some type of last click attribution. So it's giving that single last touch point credit, 100% credit for that booking, and it's negating all of the brand awareness campaigns, any of the top of funnel, stuff that you might find on especially social. A lot of your social isn't going to be a transactional channel, right? So it's not giving a lot of credit to some of those other efforts. I mean, PR, public relations included, like all of those tend to be more top of funnel awareness. And you see it in how people use ChatGPT, right? And how people use Google, like how they're using and researching is changing. And if we continue to fund that return on ad spend model, we're going to stay stuck on running, those bottom funnel ads and not really look at, all the different, controlling all those touch points up until that point.
So do you promote full funnel tracking? Full funnel.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think at the end of the day, we have to start saying, are we stealing market share and how are we affecting the transient segment? So if we're going to have a seat at the table from a commercial strategy standpoint, I think at the end of the day, we need to be looking at team performance and saying, yeah, are we doing better than the comp set? And are we making, I think marketing has the most impact. Yes, we can probably support some group efforts, but at the end of the day, we're having a bigger impact on transient. So how are we doing in terms of that transient segment versus the comp set? And I think that is where we need to be asking different questions so that we can have more, relevant total strategy conversations.
What's the biggest mistake or what's the biggest learning curve when it comes to looking at your comp set?
Hmm. I mean, one, I think the digital comp set is way bigger than people's like star comp set, right? So people say, "Oh, I've got this star comp set." Like people aren't just shopping the 4 or 5 hotels that sit on your star report, right? In the digital landscape, you could have a select service hotel being shopped against a full service hotel. You can have a branded hotel being shopped against an independent hotel. So I think, when you look at it digitally, like your comp set is way bigger than what you see on that myopic star report, right? So I think there's a lot of people, it's a self-serving model, right? They're going to choose maybe hotels that will maybe naturally make themselves look better when in reality, like that's not how the consumer shops.
What have you noticed about the way that consumer shopping has changed in 2025?
I mean, it's what everyone else is talking about in terms of AI. I think there's a couple myths, at least, as of, mid-December 2025, it's worth debunking. Like people are like, oh, the search landscape in terms of Google search is completely, falling apart. I think that people are just using LLMs in addition to Google. So they're doing maybe some of the inspiration, a lot of the research, and what we're seeing is an uptick in branded searches on, on Google, but through Cogwheel Analytics, when we're looking at our BI tool, like we're watching really closely how much traffic's coming from the LLMs, and it's still a very, very small portion. I'm not saying that people aren't using it, but what I am saying is people aren't clicking on those sources within ChatGPT and that they're going to the website. So I think they're doing the research and then doing those branded searches within Google. The other thing that we're seeing is I had the misconception that I mean, we index 630 hotels that we're tracking this data for. So I was like, oh, it's probably those big kind of destination resorts that are capturing all of the LLM traffic and exposure. And it's absolutely not that. Like we have random select service hotels in DC that are capturing a lot. But it's very, of the 630 hotels, probably 20% of the hotels are getting a third of the LLM traffic. So it's almost like an all or nothing game in terms of the hotels that are garnering the most exposure within the LLMs.
I think there's data to support what you just said in terms of the ratio of search platforms and methodologies. I think I just read that recently. But also they always say the top like 20% of businesses caught by, the 80/20 rule. So I see that as
It's
well.
certainly, yeah,
Yeah.
that's certainly seeing that. We do a monthly data presentation. Happy to share this in the show notes, the one that we did for December that just looks at 2025 to say, hey, let's talk about like are CPCs actually rising in all channels? They're actually not. Is organic traffic falling? Actually, it's really not, right? I'm not saying that isn't shifting and people aren't using it differently, but it's not this like, you know, the sky is falling that some people are putting out there.
Yes, I completely agree. The sky is not falling when it comes to Google search. There's a lot of dramatic change to your point, but it's not to the degree quite yet. So
Yeah.
tell us a
Yeah. I
little
mean,
bit.
ask again in 6 months. That's why I need to preface that was as of December 2025, this is where we are right now.
Yes, exactly. So how does your software work?
So, I mean, I think a lot of people use a lot of different agencies, and we are agency agnostic. So you don't have to use our marketing agency to use our BI tool. So we aggregate all of the website data, all of the paid media data, all your reviews, all your social, and then normalize that so you can compare it and benchmark it against multiple benchmarks. So you can benchmark within your portfolio, you can benchmark by chain scale, you can benchmark by hotel location, you can benchmark by market. So depending on where that hotel sits, some benchmarks might make more sense, but the core component of that is the ETL process of bringing in that data, transforming it, and loading in a way that makes it usable, no matter which agency you use, no matter if you do it in-house. So like, and then pulling in all of the hotel specific vendors that are out there, whether it's Expedia Travel Ads or Cody or Sojourn. Basically, it's agnostic platform, so you can see everything in one place and start to understand at the end of the day what's making an impact.
What does the education process look like there? Do you do a lot of advising around, what gets pulled in for comparison and things like that?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, look at things differently, but like for us, we work more off a community model. Like I'm like, this is how we view things. Meta search is a good example. Like we're pretty, we don't see meta search as an incremental channel. We're looking at it as more channel shift. So when you're looking at how to divvy budget, like that's important for them to know that's how we've trained the model. So the other part is us building that closed loop LLM infrastructure. So instead of uploading your reports to ChatGPT and have it do an analysis, we're creating that environment within our software so that you can ask it questions, help it identify trends above and beyond our dashboard. So obviously, in terms of training an LLM, that's based off the knowledge of me and my team, which might differ than how you view things, right? So there's always that continuous learning that the LLM is doing, but that standard, like this is how we look at things is probably a little bit different. Like how do we look at full funnel? How do we look at meta search? And a lot of that is, what is that saying about the rising of the tides, all the ships?
Yeah, lifts all the ships. Yeah.
Yeah, it lifts all the ships, right? So that's, we spend a lot of time, like at least quarterly training calls with all of our clients to say, hey, like, how are you? I can see what you're using. Try using this. Are you analyzing this? Are you taking this in consideration? So kind of helping them throughout that process.
I always tell clients like a good partner is proactive on your behalf, like on a regular basis. And it sounds like that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's always easier said than done, right? I mean, I do believe still at the foundation, even though the software is more of a SaaS model, like I still believe in the people component because if they're not using it, then they're not getting any value out of it. But even on the agency side, it's always that hard thing, and you probably see it too. It's like, how do you tangibilize the the EQ and the proactive strategy? Like until you touch it and feel it, it's really hard for people to say, oh, this does feel different than my typical agency partnership, or this does feel different than, my outsourced consultant or vendor. Like you want to be seen as kind of a part of that team, and until they touch it and feel it, it's hard to like speak to that, right?
Exactly. So educate me a little bit here. I'd love to know what kind of point of contact you work with when you first start working with a partner. Is it somebody within the marketing and sales team? Is it someone in leadership? How does that usually connect?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny that originally when I started getting into the software, I thought my agency clients and my software clients would be the exact same and I could cross sell. Um, Funny enough, it doesn't tend to work that way. It seems like for our software, it tends to be in-house marketing teams that are trying to basically show value for what they do every day to their ownership groups. So we're minimizing the amount of time they're spending on aggregating data, making reports, making presentations, so they can spend more of their time action planning. Within the agency side, they're like, well, cool. If you had this software, I don't care how you get the job done. I just need you to, they're looking for us in terms of the subject matter experts to lead them, down the right path and help guide them. Um, which is always fun because a lot of times we're in that space. So a lot of times we are working directly with the GM, the DOS. They might not necessarily be the decision makers. Because most of our relationships are at a portfolio or management company level, but our regular conversations are different. So that education comes in a lot more into play. And, having those, what do we say, healthy conflict, like this is what you believe and this is what we believe. Like I need you to, like at the end of the day, I'll do what you want, but I also need you to understand like this is why that we're might be saying something different than what you're hearing from, the big brands or some other agencies, right? So it's a balance.
If you think about somebody who's been really happy with you recently, can you share a little bit about, why they were so happy with you?
Hmm. I think it just goes back to the proactive strategy. Like my biggest pet peeve in the whole world is for an agency or anybody in marketing to like get on a call and then just like read their slides. And it's like, here's how much traffic you had. Here's how much like that is like my biggest like I'm like if I find that you do that, like like you will see me turn completely red, right? The whole point of having these conversations is that we're saying, hey, here's what happened, here's what we learned from it, and here's what we suggest you do about it, right? And if you don't take that, foundational goal alignment, like here's what the hotel's trying to achieve, and here's what we're doing to try to help you achieve those goals, and running through that red thread of everything that we do, then we're not doing our job, right? So I think foundationally, that's why people tend to work with us because once they start it, they're like, oh, this feels different. The conversations are different versus like us reading, here's where your keywords rank for this month or whatever, like blah, how boring.
Totally agree with you. And I am shocked at how many people are still doing the read the slides motion. I'm also
How
kind of,
boring. I
yeah,
mean, the hotel's just gonna
like,
sit there and like answer their email and they're gonna go off screen and they're gonna be like, okay,
yeah. And also like, way to raise your hand and be a candidate to be replaced by AI.
I know, right? It's true.
On the flip side, you've got the clients out there that are assuming that they can go tactical and expect strategy, right? How many times does that happen to you?
I mean, preaching to the choir, sister. I mean, it's funny that the like when we start working with somebody, we do an audit first and we go through this process of saying, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? What's worked and what hasn't worked? And then we're going to look at it and we're going to look at it from our angle and say, well, this is what the Internet of Things is saying, here's what you need to change to be able to actually achieve those goals. Like it's most found, it's like seems so one-on-one when you say it out loud. I was like, but until you do that foundational strategy alignment, you have no idea what tactics you need to deploy. And so many people are like, well, I want to hire you to do PPC. And I'm like, okay, why? What, what do you like? How do you already know that this is going to solve your problems? Like, what is it? Are you just like, it's like, oh, I've got to check this box, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't run PPC. I'm saying, why is it you want to run PPC? Because that's a tactic to solve a problem. So, how have you already gone through this process to identify that? And most people are just like, oh, here's some cool AI technology that I want to try without any reason behind wanting to try it.
Yes, and I often find, I don't know about you, but I find myself stepping backwards into strategy a lot of times.
Yeah. 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 Because that's what they can tangibilize, right? They can feel the execution of that. But yeah, if you don't do the strategy first, um, I'm like, if you're just paying for this, like this is a very, myopic thing that you're paying for, that's fine. But it's hard. It's also hard to, I feel like transition hotels, like once they pay you for like a mini service, it's hard to you get into that scope creep, right? And it's hard to be like, let me not offer them recommendations. Let me not offer them a strategy if they're not paying for strategy. I don't know how you combat that, but I know that we struggle with that. Like if they only bought into this, how do I not give them all this other stuff that actually impacts and matters this one thing?
Yeah, it's a lot of like diagnostics that we put in front of them and say, "Are you aware of this?" And then it's like, "Well, can you fix it?" Sure, here's the cost.
Yeah, I struggle with that. We struggle with that as well. We try to start off with the audit process first, and if somebody doesn't like the findings of our diagnostic or audit, then they're not obliged to continue services because it has to be a working relationship. They have to like working with us, and honestly, we want to make sure that we like working with them too.
Exactly. Well, if there's one thing that you want to leave people with in terms of either the SaaS model or the agency service, what would it be?
I think both sides, it's just about, I know that everybody's on their own learning curve and everybody's on their own kind of trajectory of where they sit with digital marketing knowledge, right? And there's certain people or certain profiles that might not have an understanding. So my whole thing is just like be curious, like ask the questions, no matter where you sit, right? Challenge it, the status quo of whatever it is you think. Um, to get different sides. You might not always agree with our methodology, but I think it's important that you know, I feel like sometimes people will grab at kind of random things that they've learned 5 or 10 years ago and that somehow like solidified like bricks in their brain. So I'm always like, look, let's have a conversation about what success looks like and have a curious mindset on both sides. And I tell my team that too, like you're not experts in revenue management, you're not experts in sales. So the only way for you to understand how you fit into their ecosystem is you have to ask them questions too. So it goes both ways.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time to speak with me today. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
So super fun. I appreciate it, Rebecca.
Thanks everyone for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, I'll put the information in the show notes. Thanks. Cheers, everyone.